Welcome into Pac-12 review, and man, what a weekend it was in the Pac-12. I am your host, Michael Carasanudo, here on the Sideline Sports Network, and man, what a weekend in the Pac-12. Some teams had byes. Some teams picked up their first conference win. Some teams picked up their first win in a while. A phenomenal battle in Salt Lake City. And a high-scoring affair up in Seattle. So it was a very, very awesome weekend in the Pac-12. The primetime game between USC and Utah did not let anybody down. It was absolutely awesome, to say the least. It was back and forth. I mean, USC got up to a lead. Utah fought back. Cam Rising looked really good. Caleb Williams, look, man, even in a loss, this kid should be in the top of the in the upper echelon of the list for the Heisman Trophy, in my eyes, because just getting better every week. And what he's done in Pac-12 play and how he was playing in Utah, this kid is just absolutely money. And I know, yes, he transferred in with or from Oklahoma. Obviously, Lincoln Riley gets hired, as we've talked about. But Caleb Williams, man, this is a kid, and we'll talk about I'm going to get to this more on Friday. Just getting ready for this last night, obviously reviewing games. But this young man, and we'll talk about it on Friday, hopefully with us are some of our friends from USC, cover USC. But I think he should definitely be in that upper echelon, top three, I would say, of the Heisman Trophy, even in a losing effort in Utah. But I did say some teams got their first win. But before we get to that, start the review, we are going to go to the rankings in where the Pac-12 teams are at right now. So UCLA, who didn't play, they are up to number 9. They jumped 2 spots to number 9 with they're getting rewarded for being 6-0 after some stuff happened above them. And it was insane. Obviously, battles of undefeateds this weekend, battles of top 10 teams, and also just battles of ranked teams. So UCLA goes up to number 10. Oregon, who also didn't play, jumped 2 spots, or number 9 in the AP, plus the AP poll. UCLA jumped 2 spots to number 9. Oregon jumped 2 spots to number 10. So 2 Pac-12 teams occupying the top 10, UCLA and Oregon. Then we go down to 12, and USC dropped 5 spots with their loss. They are at 12. Utah, even though they beat USC, still have 2 losses, as yes, they've lost to Florida and the aforementioned UCLA Bruins. But Utah actually jumped 5 spots in the AP to number 15. And Oregon State did receive votes, but that is it for the Pac-12 in the top 25. So again, UCLA 9 in the AP poll, UCLA 9, Oregon 10, USC 12, and Utah 15. So the conference, again, making a strong push up the polls. And that is where we are at ranking-wise. Standings-wise, like I said, UCLA had the bye, but UCLA and Oregon are both 3-0 in Pac-12 play. The Bruins 6-0, the Ducks 5-1. Then we have USC that's 4-1, and they're in conference 6-1 overall. They're third in the Pac-12, and the 15th ranked Utes, they're 3-1 in conference and 5-2 overall. And then Oregon State and Washington, both 2-2 in conference. The Beavers and Huskies, both 5-2 as well. Then you have at 1-2, yes, the Colorado Buffaloes got their first win of the season. The last, I want to say FBS team to win a game. And they are 1-2 on the season, as is Cal, who they just beat. We're going to get to that first. Colorado 1-5, Cal 3-3. ASU was on a bye. They're 1-2 in the Pac-12, 2-4 overall. Both Washington State and Arizona are 1-3 in conference play. The Cougars are 4-3 overall. The Wildcats 3-4. And then Stanford, well, they are 0-4 in conference play, but they improved to 2-4 with their rivalry win on the road in South Bend at Notre Dame, which we will get to. And like I said, it was a crazy week in the week 4 in the Pac-12. Although, like I said, Stanford, they already played USC in week 2 because they always play Notre Dame later in the season when they play them. So they have that's their final out-of-conference game for the Cardinal, but they do improve to 2-4. But yes, let's start. We are going to start with the Colorado Buffaloes and their first conference or their first win of the season. And I talked about it on Friday. Can Cal be consistent? That was the question for the Golden Bears coming into the season. Talent is there. Quarterback-wise with Jack Plummer, you feel that they could definitely take a step up. They have weapons on offense. What could the defense do? Could they be consistent? And, man, they go to Boulder, interim head coach, and it is a 3-0 Colorado lead at halftime. So the Buffaloes fired up at home. Again, obviously Carl Durrell, gets let go, gets fired, and Colorado's up 3-0 at halftime. At the end of the third, it's 7-3 Cal, and people are thinking, oh, well, the Buffaloes tried. Well, then the fourth quarter hits, and Cal scores 6 points, so they have 13. And Colorado manages to score 10 points in the fourth quarter. So we are tied at 13, and it goes to overtime. And if you haven't seen the highlight, you need to see it. Because Owen McCown, the quarterback who was just 13 for 21. Oh, no. Well, Owen McCown was 13 for 21, 104 yards. He had no touchdowns and an interception. But J.T. Shrout came in the game, was 8 for 12, just 69 yards. But he had a touchdown pass, and that touchdown pass was to Montana Laminius Craig. And when you see the replay and the catch, this was insane. I mean, they rushed the field in Boulder. You're 1-5. You're rushing the field again. It has been a long time. It has been a minute since those fans have seen a win. But the throw from J.T. Shrout to Montana Laminius Craig, who had 8 catches for 119 yards, 14.9 per reception, and the 1 touchdown. You have got to go see this replay this easily. It's not an overreaction because Colorado won, and it's not being a prisoner of the moment, as so many of you know I'm not. This is probably the touchdown catch of the year. Now, I'm not going to say the catch of the year within the field, but the touchdown catch of the year to this point, and it is going to be very, very hard to dethrone this. You need to go check out the highlight. It is absolutely unbelievable. And Colorado gets the win. I mean, they rushed the ball for 118. Overall, they threw it for 210. Like I said, the 1 touchdown, the 1 interception. Cal defensively, 1 sack, 8 tackles for losses, though. So Cal's defense was getting after it. But 2 sacks for Colorado. And look at this, 10 tackles for losses, 7 quarterback hurries. Plummer on the day, again, 1 touchdown, and the 1 interception was Tyron Taylor had the interception for the Buffaloes, as, again, they are 1-2 in conference play. And along with Cal, who they beat, ASU, who they haven't played yet, and they are 1-5 overall. So again, hats off to Cal. I know for Colorado, pardon me. I was going to say for Cal and Justin Wilcox. Like I said, Jack Plummer he threw the ball a lot. Colorado's defense getting after it. The Buffaloes really getting after it. But Plummer was 29 for 52, 262 yards, the touchdown, and the aforementioned interception. They only rushed for 36 yards because, like I said, Cal had Colorado. God, I keep saying Cal. Colorado had 2 sacks and 10 tackles for losses. When you look at it, Plummer had 3 carries for minus 16 yards. But Jaden Ott, who's been very good in the backfield for Cal, we've talked about him this season, 16 touches. I mean, they're trying to stay committed, but only 47 yards, no touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns in general for Cal. They also Kaleki Latu fumbled, had a fumble. They also lost the fumble. I mean, Colorado they turned the ball over. No interceptions, but they did lose 2 of them. Both Deion Smith and Owen McCown fumbled. Well, they had 3 fumbles altogether, but 2 of them lost. So again, Colorado again making it tougher than it needed to be. But like I said, for Plummer and to throw 52 times for 262 yards, and again, you only rush for 35 yards, and you always hear it. You always coaches say, especially when it gets later in the season, championship games, whatever. Oh, if we can't run the ball and we can't stop the run, even in all this passing world, yes, you're going to give up yards, but can you shut down their run if a team is, again, spraying it all over the field? But for Colorado, look, man, hats off to the Buffaloes. They get the 20-13 overtime victory. And again, go look at the highlight of, if you haven't seen it already, which, again, Colorado getting their first win, even on a lot of national college wrap-up shows. We've seen it. But yeah, Montana Laminius Craig, 8 catches, 119 yards, and that unbelievable catch that he snagged easily. Like I said, the touchdown catch of the season, the player of the game for Colorado, who gets, again, their first win of the season. But they get a conference win. They're 1-5 over Cal, 20-13 in overtime for the Buffaloes, which are there we go, right there. The Buffaloes of CU get the win. So, man, hats off to everybody in Boulder. It was an electric atmosphere, and you know what? Usually, you want to razz people for a 1-5 team or the team getting their first win of the year, but rushing the field. But to beat Cal and in that fashion with that touchdown couldn't have been more fitting. So Cal falls to Colorado. Another prediction I got wrong because I said, hey, Colorado, when they do it, then we'll see it or I'll believe it. But so Colorado defends the home field, gets the win in that game. The next game we are going to go to here on Pac-12 Review was the primetime game on Saturday night on Fox between the Trojans of Southern California traveling to Salt Lake City, Rice-Eccles Stadium to take on the Utes. Yes, the Utes, not Miami. Utah does it too. The Utes. Quarterback matchup. And talking about it on Friday, these were 2 obviously major points to this this preview. What USC's offense been doing under Caleb Williams, what Utah's offense has been doing with Cam Rising, and what he means to this team. And it's one of those things where he Cam Rising had to help his team battle back. So to me, it's one of those things where when you look at it, if if you're Utah, again, this can still catapult you into that Pac-12 championship game. It is log jammed up top. But for Utah, it was a huge win and a phenomenal game. But for USC, again, they get out to the 14-0 in the first, and Utah settles down, gets a drive, 14-7 after one, 28-21 at halftime, 35-28 at the end of the third. But then Utah in the fourth quarter outscoring the Trojans 15-7. And I'll get to the quarterback. I'll get to that in a second. They outscoring 15-7. They win 43-42. But the build up to that, again, USC's offense in the first half, Caleb Williams, again, 25 for 42, 381 yards, 5 touchdowns for this young man, no interceptions, none. And Cam Rising, on the other, his counterpart, had a very, very solid game too. 30 for 44, had more yards, 415 yards, and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Cam Rising also, though, 11 carries. Again, what do I keep saying every week? He can do it with his feet. They are calling plays for him, running plays for Cam Rising, but he's not forcing, because once quarterback starts running, once any quarterback starts running, it's like, oh, he's not going through his reads. He sees it. He's just taking off and he's running, which if they're gaining yards, which is the purpose of football, but big deal. But no, he's spreading the ball to his receivers, and I'll get there in a second. But yeah, he had 11 carries for 60 yards. He was the leading rusher, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. The Trojans had literally zero answer for him as the Utes got closer to the red zone. If you watch the game, again, back and forth defense, both defenses played very well. And this USC defense, I'm just about to the point where I'm saying they can be had. I'm getting to the point where if they make a mistake or they're have a blown coverage, you better take advantage of it as to, again, this USC defense can be had. Yes, when a quarterback throws for 415, you're like, oh, okay. And it's one of those, but it's to the point where if you're making adjustments and the defense, again, is just out of coverage, or there's a certain matchup that works, certain part of the field you can work, you better do it, because this Trojan defense, especially in the secondary, is coming around and balling out. Now, but that being said, Caleb Williams, like I said, his day, 25 for 42, 381, 5 touchdowns. Williams also had 3 less rushing yards than Cam Rising. He had 8 carries for 57 yards. And pretty much scrambling when he has to. He's dropping back to pass if he gets pressured. And again, you don't contain the end. This young man is going to take off, use his feet, and keep the drive going. I mean, he averaged 7.1 yards per carry, so just shy of a first down. He did have a heck of a 55-yard run too, where I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, where is everybody? Or is he going to slide? He's going down. He just ran by everybody on that play and keeping a drive going, keeping a defense, again, a little bit on their heels to where, yes, if you get down a lot, just they're pinning their ears back and they're rushing the quarterback. But Caleb Williams, dual threat, just phenomenal. And Travis Dye, this was a thing, and he had a good game too. 11 carries for 76 yards, so that's 6.9 per carry, and 1 touchdown. Didn't go over 100, but the Utes defense, which, again, USC did rush for 175 yards. 175 yards rushing, 381 yards through the air. So 556 total yards for USC, two for Utah. 552 for Utah. So, again, over 1,100 yards of offense. Both these offenses can ball with anybody in the country, as we've seen. But, yeah, I mean, they rushed for 175 yards, did the Trojans. and on 27 carries. So you figure 25 pass plays, 27 run plays, just being extremely balanced when you have somebody like Travis Dye. And yes, Caleb Williams scrambles go into run plays, but nonetheless, still 27 runs, 11 for, and Williams did have a few design runs, but 11 carries for Travis Dye. Jordan Addison, he had 2 for 27. The receiver line, he had a very solid game. But what Caleb Williams does and the comfort he has, obviously, with Lincoln Riley, what Lincoln Riley wants to do in the offense. They have one loss, and yes, they can still play for the Pac-12 championship. I mean, look, as of right now, this race between UCLA, Oregon, USC, and Utah is completely insane. Now, it would take a little bit for Oregon State, Washington to get back in it. Those would be the 6 that could, and then you're going to need, obviously, a lot of mayhem and madness for, well, Colorado's 1 and 2, but Colorado, Cal, ASU, even Washington State and Arizona, Stanford at 0-4. Legitimately, no chance, even if they won out. But, I mean, that would give a few other teams a loss. But either way, we're not going to get crazy with that. What I'm saying is this race between the Bruins, the Ducks, the Trojans, and the Utes is going to be insane down the stretch. And all those offenses, by the way, and I'll throw in the Huskies as well if the Huskies can get back into it. But those offenses, by the way, can move the ball and score with anybody in the country. So I'll put it, to overstate the obvious. So it's definitely going to heat up. But digressing back to this USC Utah game, Mario Williams, this young man is just on fire. Him and Jordan Addison. Williams, okay, so they had 11 receptions in total. Williams had 4 of them. 4 for 145 yards, averaging 36.3 per reception. He's getting open when he's catching the ball, yards after the catch. Mario Williams is a headache. And then you figure, okay, it's just Mario Williams. Oh, no. Jordan Addison, 7 catches, 106 yards, 15.1 per reception. And he had 1 touchdown. Like I said, 381 yards through the air. And between Williams and Addison, 11 receptions for 251 yards. That's over 25 yards a reception those two young men are averaging. And Utah's defense is no slouch. Yes, we get the rules. But these guys are getting open. And Caleb Williams is just firing them the ball. The Trojans' offense is back. The defense has been catching up and making and literally taking steps every week. And the Trojans, I mean, man, again, Jordan Addison, what he can do is just, and you look at him, and then you have like Mario Williams. It's like, oh, it's my goodness. And you know, the route running in college, you always hear people say, how is the route running? If a guy is a really good route runner, you know, within the concepts of the offense, we're not going to get too crazy X and O's, but within the concepts of the offense, if he's a really good route runner, you're going to see very wide open a lot. And if you're a above average route runner, you're going to have your space a lot of times. But man, Williams and Addison, they are just on the same page with Mario Williams and Jordan Addison are on the same page with Caleb Williams, pardon me. And when you look at it, man, it's one of those things where it's just going to be even tougher and tougher. And when you have somebody like Travis Dye, again, you can key on him. Again, 11 carries for 76 yards. Yes, 6.9 per carry is phenomenal. And the 1 touchdown, you kept under 100 yards. But and Utah, again, they will blitz, but they can rush 4 and get there. They get home with 4 a lot. They're putting pressure on. They're not usually losing gap responsibility. So USC, again, to have 27 rushes and stay patient with it. But what they did through the air, I mean, Williams and Addison, you talk about Biletnikoff Award nominees. And no, I'm not just saying it because it's a Pac-12 show, but those two would take votes away from each other. But no surprise if one of them wins, because of the consistency so far this whole season that they've done. But we got to flip the ball to the Utes, man. Kyle Whittingham, you talk about guts and you talk about, well, you're at home. Is it really gutsy? Yes, it's gutsy, because a second conference loss, as good as they are, puts you, like I said, there are teams that have a little bit of shot with 2 losses, but how much madness has to happen now? So 15-7, like I said, the Utes outscored the Trojans in the fourth quarter. So USC is up 42-35. Utah comes down and scores. They look at the time, and yeah, chances are you might go to overtime. You're not going to let SC score. Kyle Whittingham says, you know what? We're at home, and I'm going to go for 2. And they go for 2, do the Utes. So it's 42-41. You're thinking, of course, the average fan's like, oh, kick the extra point. And then the second they get to 2, they're like, oh, I would have went for 2. I would have went for 2. But they go for 2. The Utes get it. Cam Rising looking to pass, has to step up in the pocket, gets a nice little screen, but a block, body gets in the way. He goes in the end zone. They get the 2. And yeah, there's about 58 seconds left, 55 seconds left. So USC gets the ball back, and you're figuring, man, Caleb Williams, they can march the ball down the field. And again, not needing a touchdown. They just need to get into range and get the field goal attempt, thinking they could do it. Second play, Caleb Williams, we think, throws an interception, but when you're watching in real time, you see the flag come flying in right away. And it's pass interference, would have ended the game. And then there's about 8 seconds left for the last play. He rolls a little bit to his left, throws it downfield, but has five there, and there's few receivers in the vicinity to a receiver, but Utah knocks the ball down 43-42. The Utes 5-2 overall, but 3-1 in conference play, and just absolutely battling. Cam Rising, like I said, 30 for 44, 415 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 3 rushing touchdowns. Did Cam Rising, 11 carries for 60 yards. Micah Bernard, 11 for 37. Tavion Thomas, a little quiet, 8 carries for only 28 yards. But again, like I said, they did rush for 138 yards and the 4 rushing touchdowns. Cam Rising, again, 5 total touchdowns. This young man, again, and I put Caleb Williams in that kind of upper tier for the Heisman Trophy. Cam Rising, like he keeps going like this. Him and Caleb Williams, I think, will be, of course, taking votes from each other, but there's no way these 2 young men on this trajectory should not be in this conversation. And not just in the conversation like, oh, yeah, they're in the background. No, up in the forefront. But like I said, they rushed for 138 yards. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, this young man, Cam Rising was finding him early, and he found him often. 16 catches for 234 yards, 14.6 per carry or per reception. He did have 1 touchdown. But when they needed to pick up a big first down, when they were down again, he got 14-0, and then it's 14-7. He had the first touchdown, at the end of the first. But then again, it's 28 to 14, and then Utah gets another touchdown in the second quarter. Again, at halftime, like I said, they go and only down by 7, 28-21. But Dalton Kincaid, this tight end, and they lost. They've had injuries. They lost their tight end for the season, and it was one of those things where when you look at it, you know that you knew this young man needed to step up. And Kincaid, man, Cam Rising, no problem finding him. He is finding the holes in the defense. No, I mean, he's running by guys too. It's not just holes. He's running by guys. And he again, just keeping the chains going, keeping them in the game. And Kincaid had a solid game. Devon Vele, I mean, he had 5 catches for 62 yards. He also did have a touchdown as well, but they were definitely looking out for him because he has been Utah's #1 receiver. USC was rolling coverage. I say looking out, rolling coverage to Vele, but just an overall phenomenal game. And you look at defensively, okay, so USC, like I said, leading in sacks. No sacks. Cam Rising did not get sacked one time in this game. No sacks, 1 quarterback hurry. And 1 quarterback hurry. And no sacks though for the Trojans, who were leading the Pac-12 in sacks, and they were top in the country. And again, neither team threw an interception, but no sacks for the Trojans. 4 for the Utes and 5 quarterback hurries. And like I said, USC with just 1 quarterback hurry. So look, Utah got down. UCLA came out ablazing on the road, and they knew they needed to get off to the fast start. People say, oh, well, that's so cliche or so obvious. But you go to Rice-Eccles, and you better get off to a decent start, because if you let them get going and that crowd get behind them, and that crowd, again, insane towards the ending of the game. But Kyle Whittingham, and like I said, coming into the season, maybe looked at as the best coach in the Pac-12, not because he's the longest tenured coach in the Pac-12, but look how they recruited once they came into the conference and what they've been able to do, and the consistency, getting better, but then the consistency of winning, being up top in the conference the last 3 to 4 years, and 5 years ish in that area. And they've always been a tough game, but like I said, always physical. And the Trojans, man, they came out and absolutely punched them in the mouth. And again, both teams in the third quarter, 7 points each. The Trojans only get the 7 in the fourth. The Utah defense locked it up for, a little bit, but man, to go for, and if you're on the road and you go for 2, people say, oh, well, yeah, I can see it, but why would you play for overtime? You're at home. Hey, if you can get out of there, you can get out of there. So, man, hats off to the Utes. That is one hell of a victory. That was one hell of a game. Again, if you missed it, you missed out, man. You definitely missed out. But USC, and I did get it right. I said Utah would win a game. I said I wasn't going to pick against them at home. I almost got the loss, but they get the win. So Utah beats USC, still in the hunt for a top 2 in the Pac-12. Look, we're going to step aside real quick. When we get back, I will get to that high-scoring Washington-Arizona game, and we will also get to the Washington State and Oregon State game as other teams had byes. We'll step aside real quick. Pac-12 review here on a Monday. Don't go too far. I'll be right back. All right, we are back here on Pac-12 review from week 4 in conference play. Like I said, was just insane. So far, we saw Colorado got their first win. And Utah, Coach Whittingham going for 2 and beating USC at home 43-42. Before we move on, though, want to give a shout out because a lot of people, last season knew about the tragedy that the Utes football program, but the community just in general had suffered. Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe, both young men, unfortunately killed at separate times with the from gunshots. And they had a special helmet. They retired the number 22 because these two were good friends, great friends growing up. Then they ended up both playing at Utah. Both wore 22. Utah's retired that number. But, man, you need to go look at the helmets that they had made for that game. It was absolutely awesome. Coach Whittingham and the program says, there's always going to be a hole. There's always going to be pain, but they move on in their memory. And both of the mothers of Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe, they received game balls afterwards. And I'm sure, obviously, hopefully, I didn't see that, but hopefully they both get one of the helmets too. The tribute helmets were absolutely beautiful. So again, such a tough story, but Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe always honored by Utah, and it was just so great to see their mothers there receiving those the game balls. But like I said, hopefully the helmets. But they played the game, and you know what? In the spirit of how great it was, Utah wins the game over SC. Like I said, 43-42, and again, just an absolute insane game between those two. The next game we are going to hit, man. This one surprised me because I picked the wrong way. I picked the Cougs. Oregon State at home. Justin Smith, man, has his team getting the victory 24-10 over Washington State. Ben Gulbranson, again, said he was going to have to fill in the backup quarterback for the Beavers. And he was, 50%, which obviously not great. 12 for 24, 141 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But, man, you talk about they knew they needed to run the ball, did Oregon State, because Damian Martinez, kid, 16 carries for 111 yards, 6.9 per carry. Note the rushing touchdowns, but for the young man, but definitely keeping the ball away from chewing up clock. Because you look at it at halftime, it was a 10-3 Oregon State lead. 7-0 after 1, 10-3 at halftime. And then it was 17-10 at the end of the third. And the Beavers, we've seen this a few times in Pac-12 games, but one of the teams getting blanked. The Beavers blanked the Cougars and end up winning 24-10. But, yeah, you look at Damian Martinez, like I said, 16 carries, 111 yards for the Beavers. Jam Griffin, who we've talked about, 9 carries for 30 yards. The 2 rushing touchdowns, though, Jack Coletto had 6 carries for only 14 yards, but he got into the house twice. So Coletto with the 2 rushing touchdowns, and the receiving touchdown went to Anthony Gold. Again, like I said, they didn't throw the ball much, 24 times, 12, but Gulbranson completed 12. But Jack Velling, 4 catches for 63 yards. Anthony Gold, 2 for 23, and the 1 receiving touchdown. But it was going to be a ground game, and for the Beavers, look, they made the play. They ran the ball in the fourth quarter. They kept it away from Cam Ward and the Cougars. And Cam Ward, man, he had to throw it 54 times. He was 25 for 54. So under 50% completion percentage, but 345 yards, 1 touchdown. He did throw 1 interception, but they only rushed. Check this out. The Oregon State defense, man, balling out up in Corvallis. They try to run the ball 20 times. They had 20 rushing plays, but for 23 yards. Now, that being said, Cam Ward, because Oregon State did have 6 sacks. So, yes, that does go into rushing. 6 sacks and 9 quarterback hurries. So, it was a long, long day for Cam Ward, especially again, 25, you drop back 54 times, you get sacked 6 of them. But he had 11 carries for minus 21 yards. But Jalen Jenkins had 6 carries for 42 yards. And they were never truly out of it. But, man, this defense from Oregon State, that's one thing in the highlights watching. Their defensive line balled out. And, yeah, to overstate the obvious with the 6 sacks, but they got pressure on Ward. They needed to get back to that, and that was a dominating defensive performance. And, again, when you have a backup quarterback in, not that they don't have confidence in him. I mean, we saw it 2 weeks ago here in Tempe when Trenton Bourguet came in for Emory Jones. Like, they have faith in him. And, yeah, Branson has gotten snaps, and you see, but, again, 24 pass plays to 47 run plays. So you knew what they wanted to do, and Washington State inevitably couldn't stop it because check that, 203 total yards rushing, 203. So, I mean, Branson, 4 carries for 10 yards. Like I said, Washington State only had 1 sack to Oregon State's 6. The Beavers balled out. And the one interception, Ryan Cooper Jr. had the interception for Oregon State. And and Branson threw an interception as well. And that was Sam Lockett III that got the interception, returned it for 36 yards. But, yeah, the Cougars, like I said, you rush for just 23 yards. Hey, you have 345 through the air, but, 368 total yards, you'll take that. And the crazy thing is, so Washington State has 368. When I'm watching the game, I'm like, man, they can't really be totally outgaining them, but I'm like, they've rushed for a lot. But so they had, like I said, 368. Oregon State had 344. So Washington State outgains them, but doesn't outscore them. And hats off, like I said, to that defense. 6 sacks for Justin Smith, man. They balled out. And Oregon State, like I said, now moves up to, they are 2-2 in conference play. So, again, they're hanging right there. But it's, like I said, it's going to take some, and they still have to play Oregon in their rivalry game. It was formerly known as the Civil War, but they were changing that. So, but yeah, they still have their game against Oregon, which that will be the last game of the season. And we don't want to fast forward to that because we're loving this college football season too much as we love college football. But Oregon State, they're hanging right there, and they're 2-2. For Washington State, the Cougs dropped to 1-3 in conference play. And it's definitely going to be tough sledding for the Cougs. Well, to win the Pac-12, they can win games. They can get up there, and they still have their game with Washington. They can definitely play spoiler in the Apple Cup to Washington. That'd be something to look out to as well. Washington's got a little bit of work to do, but it's very feasible. So, yeah, Oregon State gets that win. Another prediction that I get wrong because I went with the Cougs up there. But yeah, it's whew. So the next game, though, that we are going to get to is the game that I said would be very high scoring. And I was so close. I said the final would be 49-45. The final was 49-39. Again, it's not about wanting to be right in predictions, but still, the Huskies beat the Wildcats 49-39 up in Seattle. And you talk about a game that, yes, points every quarter. Absolutely. In this day and age, people say a great game, even though there was Washington had 595 total yards. The Wildcats had 526 total yards. So yes, offenses are good, but when there's really hardly any inkling of defense, and I'm not saying they didn't play defense, but yeah, with all those total yards, it's insane. But yeah, 49-39 was the final. It was 7-7 after one. So when I saw that, I was like, look, there's time, but man, I'm probably going to be way off on this high scoring game. At halftime, the Huskies were up 21-14. At the end of the third, it was 42-24. But in the fourth quarter, because the Huskies outscored the Wildcats 21-10 in the third, but the Wildcats outscore them 15-7 in the fourth to 49-39. And like I said, 595 total yards for the Huskies, 526 for the Wildcats. Michael Penex Jr., and this is another young man. People see the record, but man, every week he delivers. Look at this, 36 of 44 for 516 and 4 touchdowns, no picks for the young man. His counterpart, Jayden de Laura, who, again, saw him struggle a little bit against that Oregon defense, but throws 6 touchdowns against the Buffaloes, moved the ball hugely against Cal. He goes 25 for 34, 400 yards passing, and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions for that young man. But yeah, when we look at Kalen DeBoer and what he's done with the Huskies, rushing wise, they did have 29 rushing plays to 36 passing. So a little closer on the balance there. Cam Davis, 8 for 41. Sam Adams, a second, 6 for 20. Wayne Talupapa, 10 carries for 18 yards. But through the air, man, and I saw this kid in Tempe, Rome Odunze, 9 catches, 169 yards. Yep, that's 18.8 per reception. 2 receiving touchdowns, 2 of the 4 from Michael Penix Jr. to Odunze. Jalen Polk, 4 for 95. And Jalen McMillan, 6 for 77. He had the 3rd touchdown, and then Sam Adams, the 2nd, 2 catches, 14 yards, but he did have the touchdown reception. Like I said, no interceptions in this game. Washington didn't have any fumbles. Arizona had 2, but they recovered both. But you look at this Washington defense, 4 sacks for the Huskies on de Laura, 5 quarterback hurries. Arizona, no sacks, though, on Michael Penix Jr., but they did have 6 quarterback hurries. And, man, I mean, it's just, 7 touchdowns, obviously, for the Huskies. But what Jetfish is doing, look, the Wildcats fall to 3-4. They're 1-3 in conference play, but it is not as grim, or as dark, I should say, like gloomy weather I was thinking over the weekend here in Arizona with the rain. But no, it's not as bad in this game. Washington, again, offensively, like I said, there was a shootout with Arizona State. They go back home to take on Arizona, and yeah, they hold on for the 10-point victory, but again, just in control the whole game. But what Kalen DeBoer has done, Fresno State, look, the offense, and when coaches come in, you want to see what you have. Yes, you can work the transfer portal, and for Michael Penix Jr., now he's a young man. If we're talking Heisman's, not just because he's a quarterback, but he would kind of be on that outer tier, not in the forefront, but just kind of like, if you put him in there because you see where he's at now, what he's done, how he's built up to this. And I mean, the man, again, has come in from Indiana and just done a phenomenal job in Kalen DeBoer's offense. Like I said, he came from Fresno State. But, man, the game for the Huskies, defensively, yes, you're going to have to shore things up. 526 yards given up, yes. When you have 595, that's great. But defensively, it's tough to sustain. And like I said, they have a little bit of work to do the Huskies. But the Wildcats, if you're an Arizona fan, again, and everybody gets annoyed. No, it's not about, everybody gets a trophy, silver linings, rainbows, and unicorns. But you have to feel that you're going in the right direction. And yes, it comes to the point where you want your offenses to be on par, to be able to yes, the rules, as we all know, rules definitely dictate a lot of what's going on with college football in general, college football and passing, but you need your offense to move the ball. You need your offense to, yes, you know, you're not going to score every drive, but to keep pace, to get scores. And coaches will do that first, but you have to address the defense. I mean, like I said, Utah and USC, people say, well, 43-42, but defenses are making plays. There were punts in that game. There were defensive stops. It's just the offenses are very high powered, and you need to do that first. But both of these coaches, to me, when you watch this game, especially just watching this game, you start to win. You start getting guys in on defense again. Rush the passer can get there, but in the secondary, your linebackers just, again, upper echelon, because you're going to need to make more than one stop a game, or one stop a half, 2 stops a game. So if you're Arizona, you're looking at Washington again. You still feel like you can make a run, and like I said, you know, UCLA, Oregon 3-0, the Trojans, the Utes. Well, the Trojans 4-1, the Utes 3-1, but Oregon State and Washington 2-2. And yeah, those 6 right there, I would say, yes, they still have a chance to be the top 2. But obviously, UCLA, Oregon, USC, and Utah, somewhat controlling their destinies. But, well, with the Bruins and the Ducks being undefeated, and they play each other. Oh, yes. They play each other this week. But anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, for Arizona and Washington, like, look, it's Washington, again, definitely going in the right direction and winning quick. Arizona, like I said, a 3-4. No, nobody likes a losing record, 1-3, but it's been a lot better in Tucson for the Cats than it has been in recent history, which from my shirt to know, as you can tell from my shirt, it's one of those things that is tough for me. But I just want great football in this conference. And when teams, again, aren't a bye week, because we know a few conferences have bye week teams, even though they're supposedly the best. Think about that one. No, but anyway, no, but that being said, like, it's looking good there for them. And yeah. So quick little short break, and then we will get to the Stanford victory, not a conference victory, but a Stanford victory. We'll be right back. All right, we are back here. Pac-12 review. It has been a heck of a week. And, I did get that game right, though. I did predict Washington to win. So, yeah, it's winners this week for Colorado over Cal, Utah over USC, Oregon State over Washington State, and Washington over Arizona. The last one, like I said, that we have to get to is the Stanford Cardinal, which we always joked around, the battle of the really smart kids. One of the battles of the really smart kids. Stanford goes to Notre Dame. They're here to go to South Bend. And yeah, David Shaw might not be able to win at home, but they shut Notre Dame out in the first half. They're up 10-0. They get 1 field goal in the third, 1 field goal in the fourth. But nonetheless, because it was 13-7 at the end of the third in favor of Stanford, and then Stanford was up 14-13, Notre Dame, pardon me. The Irish were up 14-13, and the Cardinal get the field goal, not late, but they get a field goal, and they win 16-14. Tanner McKee, 26-38, 288 yards, no passing touchdowns, no interceptions, though. And Drew Pine for Notre Dame, 13 for 27, 151 yards, 1 touchdown. Audric Estime had 8 carries for 57 yards and a rushing touchdown for the Irish. But, man, Casey Filkins, I kept wondering when we're going to see more of this kid. Yes, they were facing some defenses. Yes, they were keying on him, obviously crowding the box, but not every time. And Casey Filkins, though, man, 32 carries, had 91 yards, so 2.8 a carry. But, man, trying to chew up clock, he did have the 1 rushing well, the only touchdown for Stanford, but the rushing touchdown for the Cardinal. And, hats off to David Shaw. Again, it was a battle in South Bend. I watched the game. I mean, you look at receiving wise, Elijah Higgins, 5 for 81. Michael Wilson, 9 for 66. So, like I said, 288 yards through the air, 97 rushing, so 385 total. But they held Notre Dame to 301 total yards. And like I said, you're not going to do too much. Notre Dame had lost their first two. They won 3 in a row, and then the Cardinal come to town, get the Pac-12 to add a conference victory over the Independent. But yeah, for Tanner McKee, like I said, I've been loving this kid. And you have 38 pass or 39. Well, he had 38 pass plays called. The team was 0 for 1. So I don't know who. They didn't say who, which is weird. But still, 38 passes he threw, and they rushed the ball, though, 42 times. So David Shaw, trying to reestablish that physicality with this team. And Stanford, like I said, always bruisers. I mean, in the trenches where games are literally decided, because if you don't have the offensive line, guess what? You can't pass. You can't spray it all over the field, have all these crazy passing yards. You can't protect. If the defensive line in the trenches is winning, to overstate the obvious, you're not doing anything. But David Shaw trying to reestablish that. Again, they had 42 carries for 97 yards, I mean, 2.3 a carry. Nothing great. And Notre Dame, and as we see from the score, I mean, Notre Dame shut out in the first half, 14 in the second. Stanford, 7 in the first, and then 3 the second, third, and fourth. But, man, to reestablish that physicality, but to get a win like that, 16-14, and I know people will call it ugly because there wasn't, 5 million yards and 50 points. Yeah, there were spots of it that were ugly, but if you look at the way the defenses were playing, especially in Notre Dame, again, with what they're doing in the secondary from week 1 till now, what I've seen in Notre Dame, I like. Stanford, again, I just think they need to get to the quarterback. This game, they did have 2 sacks and 6 quarterback hurries. Notre Dame only had the 1 sack and 3 quarterback hurries. There were no interceptions, like I said, and no fumbles. So from that standpoint, very, very clean for clean both game on both sides. So, I mean, defensively, yeah, I mean, the offense doesn't do anything great. And there were some spots where both teams, I think in the second quarter, on so many games, second quarter, I want to say that Stanford had a chance for, to me, there was 2 plays, it was either second or third quarter, where could have totally been touchdowns from McKee, but ball wasn't thrown to the receiver in that direction the one time, and yeah, there's a few wide open times, like 2 that I blatantly recall. But nonetheless, hey, you get the 16-14 win. You needed to feel that win, and it's to me, it's huge. So congrats to the Cardinal. They get that win. I did pick them to win. So, but before we get out of here, next week, or this week's schedule, mind you not. So in this week, like I said, ASU and Oregon were on. Oh, yeah. Oh. So this week, pardon me, I'm looking at the wrong week. UCLA, like I said, goes to Oregon. So that's number 9 versus number 10. Absolutely phenomenal. Arizona State, well, winnable game. Stanford can't win at home, and ASU can run the ball. The ASU goes to Stanford. We'll talk about that on Friday. Colorado is at Oregon State, trying to make it 2 in a row, are the Buffaloes, but the Beavers up in Coral Vallis might have something else to say about that. Washington goes to Cal, and if they want to keep their chance at Pac-12 hopes alive, they have to keep it going. So as you can see, USC Utah, Washington State, and Arizona all have buys. So USC, Utah, Washington State, Arizona all off next week. But man, UCLA, Oregon, probably the mark to me. That's a marquee matchup here out west, but in the country. Number 9 versus number 10. And then, like I said, so those are the games we will get to Friday as UCLA heads up to Eugene to see if they can hang with the Ducks. But again, I want to thank everybody at Sideline Sports, my guy JB Ellis, my brother Eric Wilson, obviously helping set all this up, all the goodies that look good, and you guys for checking it out. Friday, again, we'll be back 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. here on the left coast, as we like to say, or as I like to say, 10 a.m. on the West Coast. It'll be Pac-12 preview, and we'll see who we get on from UCLA and Oregon, because definitely want to have that game previewed because, well, we will preview it, but we'll see what the experts are saying. So we're going to get out of here. Thank everybody for checking it out, and I will see you Friday. Have a great week, and get ready for some more Monday Night Football tonight and college football the next weekend. But I will see you Friday. See ya.